Welcome back to the class, everyone. 5v5 GAC is right around the corner, and for anyone who just unlocked Rey or Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, we've got quite a few things to cover. So the whole point of today's video is showing you the best ways to use both Rey and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, and all the requirements that came with the Lightspeed bundles that you might not know how to use, whether it be putting the defensive comp correctly on defense and splitting it up, or using the characters on offense. So we're going to split this into two halves. We're going to cover resistance first, and then we're going to touch on first order. And hopefully I'll leave a little time marker in there so that if you only have one, you can just skip right to the next one. So first up is Rey, and the one thing that I want to say before we even start on this, the resistance teams are heavily defensive in nature. They are very hard to take down, and most of the time they have a lot of puzzle elements that if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing, or they do know what they're doing and don't have the right tools to be able to take them down, it can be very challenging. So really, regardless of how you're using it, unless you're using like a JTR lead for some reason, and that's really not optimal if you have all the right tools, this is what you're going to look at. So the first thing that I want to cover are what I guess we'll call the poor people setup. And really the whole idea behind this is, let's say your roster really isn't very big at all. You got the pack, you got all these characters, that's great, but you really don't have anything to go with them, and that'll make more sense here in a second. But this is pretty much how you want to break down the two teams. You want to keep Rey with the Resistance brothers. There's some nice inspired synergy that goes on between the three of them. JTR makes things pretty difficult, not impossible, but difficult for a lot of debuff heavy teams that are wanting to counter Rey, specifically Starkiller and JML. And not only that, actually she also offers a nice healing immunity versus C, which doesn't completely shut C out, but it is a factor against him. And then BB-8 just has some nice synergy that goes along with JTR with how their mechanics work. You can sub in R2 for BB-8 for more health and offense on the team overall. But again, the whole point of this comp is you should be able to build this if you got the Lightspeed bundle. Really, if you just unlocked Rey at all, you should already have all these characters. So again, pretty good defensive lineup if you don't have all the other tools to play around with. Now, if you're going to make that specific Rey team, this is the Finn team you are going to want to make. Finn lead with Zori. I realize a lot of you might not have her, but even if you have her at like gear 9 at 3 stars, for a lot of people out there, especially if you're outside of Kyber, I would even say lower than Kyber 2, it's going to be a nasty team to deal with. She deals a lot with stealth, so it's not really that easy to target her right off the get-go, and a lot of what's happening and a lot of the value she's bringing to the battle are through these two uniques that just add a slew of things to the resistance comp as a whole. Now again, if you're wanting to use only resistance characters and you've already built the previous Rey team, the best bang for your buck is going to be Rose Tico, Poe Dameron, and Resistance Trooper. The team focuses highly off of exposes and how those interact with both turn meter and cooldown reduction, so this team is going to get you pretty far there as a whole. Zori also has some specific synergy with Rose that allows Rose to do some better things. Now, if you are a little bit more of an advanced player, maybe mid-game or end-game, and you just got your hands on Rey, you can do a lot more fun things with her. Now, we once mentioned this in one of our previous Rey videos. You need to look at Rey not as a resistance leader, but as a light side leader. Again, if you go through every single piece of her kit, not once does she talk about resistance. She's always talking about light side allies. But what this means is you can make a variety of Rey comps that all have viability without having to specifically steal resistance characters that can then be used on a really good Finn Zori team. So these are just some examples of what's out there right now. You can kind of mix and match. There are other options. Light side scoundrels, great with Rey. Unaligned force users that are light side, great with Rey. Just normal random Jedi light side, good with Rey. There's lots of combinations you can make. One of the hotter items right now is Cal Kestis, just because his unique that adds a bunch of max health and tenacity to all unaligned force users isn't excluded for Galactic Legends, so Rey gets to partake in that as well. And it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. If you have Ben Solo has to go with Rey. He's a below par character without Rey. He's an amazing character with Rey. Most of his kit is built specifically around her. It would be pretty cool if he had a kilt himself. But yeah, these are just some ideas of what you can build. This right now seems to be one of the most problematic Rey teams, just because it has like this 5-layer puzzle where you need to get to Sortie to get VIP off of Barris, but L3 keeps taunting, so you have to kill L3. All right, now you get access to Sortie. All right, now you get access to Barris. All right, now you can finally kill these two because they don't have Barris constantly healing them, and it just becomes a huge mess. We already talked about some of the things that Cal does. You can mix and match these two. You can kind of put in Haldo with JTR to some effect because of the taunt and foresight interaction they have. So you have plenty of options. And again, the whole reason that you would want to do this is so that you could set the premium Finn team on defense. And now this is really where the best team is going to be. There's a few reasons for it, and the first is Resistance Heroes Finn's base speed is really high, and it makes it a lot more challenging for enemy teams to get in front of it, because he goes first and they start getting the exposes in the turn meter going. It becomes very problematic for the enemy team to catch up. And if you turn meter load this team, holy cow, it is not fun to take down. One of the things that having Rose on here is very helpful is when she starts spreading tenacity up, Zori will allow that tenacity up. She'll give it the ability for everyone who has tenacity up to apply exposes to the enemy comp. There it is. Whenever they deal damage to an enemy, they 35% chance to inflict expose, which means our resistance brothers here, who already do a lot of cool things within their kit, they also will now get to expose on top of that, with being able to shift around turn meter, cleanse, put a bunch of debuffs, counter, all the things that they do. That's really how you get the best team there. So that is going to pretty much make it up for Resistance. Again, a very defense-oriented team. Now, looking over to the First Order is going to very much mirror the Resistance, which I guess is kind of fun, as an offensive team. SLKR is probably the best offensive GL in the entire game. I have switched out of different defensive comps with Galactic Legends in GAC. SLKR is never on defense just because he beats so many things. He's a little bit more limited in 5v5 than he is in 3v3, but he still can beat several different comps. So the standard First Order comp that you're going to want to use is this one above that will be able to tackle Jabba, Rey, as well as the First Order mirror. I really don't enjoy the mirror, but if it's the only option, this should work fine. I will say that sometimes having a First Order Stormtrooper in place of First Order Officer is beneficial, particularly for the Rey and the mirror comps. Jabba, I actually really like First Order Officer here, but the main reason he's here is because that allows us to take First Order Stormtrooper as a tank and use him in a secondary team with Phasma or what have you. So this is what's going to do it the best for those specific comps. Now, Lord Vader is also a problem, but you need a different set of tools to be able to take on Lord Vader. And the reason why you need our good friends Watt and the Night Sisters here is because Watt is able to put a tech onto SLKR, the tank tech, that constantly cleanses him. So Lord Vader's healing immunity that he gets used quite often when it comes down to the 1v1 of him and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren just doesn't matter because you're constantly cleansing every single turn. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has a lot of health steal and a lot of damage, so he can constantly recover from whatever Lord Vader is doing and eventually take him down. The reason why Night Sister Zombie is here just because she has such a consistent taunt with Kylo Ren leading, and the reason why the other Kylo kind of needs to be here is because if the enemy Lord Vader team has Fracture, you need one tank to hold the Fracture while the other one tanks all the hits from Maul's onslaught, so someone important like Watt or Daka doesn't die in the very beginning of the battle. So that's kind of how that comp works. There are a few variations out there, particularly one with armor, but this is the one that I've used the longest that I would be the most comfortable recommending. Now this is kind of funny, but it's true. If you see pretty much any Sith Eternal comp on defense, Supreme Kylo Ren should just solo them. There's a few comps out there you have to look for that have all the right things. Like if they have a pre-taunt like Sith Trooper, if they have a character with ability block on basic like Count Dooku or Talon, if they have a character with healing immunity on their basic like Sid, then Supreme Leader Kylo Ren can have some issues getting around them because they can really lock him down with the ability block and healing immunity. But for the most part, solo Kylo just beats C up very easily because Sith Eternal needs to be able to link two characters. If you don't have two characters, he can't do much, and Kylo will eventually just build up enough damage not to just kill him, but the entire team. Now, what you're going to do with the rest of the First Order will depend on what you're doing with Kylo up top. Kylo really does take first priority. Yes, because he's more important, but also because he's beating Galactic Legends that otherwise you probably don't have a counter to. So with that being said, if you're using like the mega comp up here to beat Jabba or Rey or whatever it is, you're probably going to want to use the poor Phasma. And I've typically stick this team on defense. I've used it to clean up things. It's been kind of nice. But even with first order TIE pilots, this can be easily solved on defense. Bad Batch will take it out. On top of that, things like Wampa, and I've never actually done it myself, but I've heard that Nest beats it with this Omicron, assuming your opponent has an R7 Nest all up and ready to go. It's a team. I mean, depending on where you're at, if you're in a Rhodium or Chromium, eating Bad Batch really might not be that bad. Like, they took their whole team of, 2,000 Kairos to beat your kind of leftover squad after you made Kylo. That's not too bad. However, if you are using one of these other comps, like to kill LV, to kill C, you can use the premium Hux team. And I don't have a lot of experience with myself on this on offense, but it can beat quite a few teams. One of the things to note is you just get a ton of turn meter from being able to start right away, be a first order TIE pilot. Omicron giving you so much speed because Hux makes everyone start with advantage regardless if he's in the leadership spot or not. And then Kylo Ren just keeps spamming his middle ability, which keeps refreshing everyone, and then just get a bunch of advantage from Sith Trooper and Kylo Ren to make that turn meter twice as good as it already is. You could probably even leave this team on defense. It does get beat by a few things, but things a lot heavier than, say, Wampa, Nest, or even Bad Batch, because the 2-turn stun from Kylo Ren that is irresistible kind of stops those more those cheap solo teams from being able to get away what they want to get away with. So again, Resistance very defense oriented, First Order is more offensive oriented. You can use these teams on defense or offense down below. It just kind of depends on what your roster needs at the moment. So that is going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay awesome.